all students will learn well, become lifelong learners, and contribute positively to society. Go ahead and get started with a roll call, please.
Mark Thomas.
Here.
Bob Thomas.
Here.
Shondel.
Here.
Berger. Oh. Carter.
Here.
Wiskus.
He's on there.
I see him on there, but
Make audio trouble.
and more.
Here. Kevin, can you hear us?
Okay.
Kevin, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Go ahead and welcome visitors. At this time, open up the meeting to a public forum if there's anyone who'd like to speak on anything. I don't have the statement here in front of me, but anyone who wants to speak?
Yeah.
Okay, guidelines for public comment. We would like to remind all speakers that while this is an open forum for any issues of praise or concern, the board does not expect all speakers, the board does expect all speakers to maintain a civil tone and refrain from using profanity, raising their voices, or making statements that are threatening or harassing towards others. Any speaker who creates a disruption may be asked to leave the meeting. We also want to remind all speakers that any comments that are made during a public comment are done so at the risk of the person making the comment, and that the district will not be responsible for any defamatory or potentially defamatory statements which may be made about a particular person or persons. Individuals are asked to seek legal consultation if they are uncertain about the character of any comments. It is the board's practice not to engage or respond to speakers during the public comment session, regardless of the topic and or concern. If the board wishes to further discuss or address an item or concern raised in a public comment, it will do so by establishing an agenda item at a future board meeting or delegating responsibility to the administration to address an issue. Any comments at this time? I don't see any at this time. Before we get started and approve the agenda, we'd like to move items K and L up in the order right behind A. We have Rochelle here that's going to speak on a lot of that. But this time I'd entertain a motion to approve with those adjustments.
Motion to approve with those adjustments. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have no old business. So our new business, starting out with district celebrations.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lynn with Lakeview PTO, what's up first?
I apologize for my attire. I'm going to the soccer fields right after this first scrimmage. I guess.
Looks like soccer.
Yeah, I know. I felt like I was like wrestling. So I'm the Lakeview PTO president for this year. So I just thought I'd come and share just kind of what we've been up to this year, what our plans are for next year, and then just all the fun that we've been having. I think we're on a high from the teacher appreciation that we got to participate in 2 weeks ago. It was an exhausting week, but it was a fun week down at Lakeview for the whole week of different events that we had planned. Our board members, we are a legit 501c3 now. We have bylaws. As of today, we are insured as well, which is always important, especially as we keep having events. So this year we spent a majority of getting a lot of foundation work done. The calendar kind of figured out. We tried to do what parents were used to or the kids were used to, and then kind of start folding in some things, new things. So this newsletter is going to go out with Carrie's suggestion with all the registration packets. So teacher or parents that are new to the district or coming in from the preschool will kind of be aware of what the PTO is, and then those that have current students that may not be aware can kind of see what we're all about. So we kind of have our calendar going on, something that we kind of took Derek's suggestion that you mentioned about a get-together fundraising supplies for the kids. we're gonna do a parents' night out, dueling pianos as our big fundraiser. And our big fundraiser for next year, we're hoping to have pricing, but we don't, will be phase B, in playground equipment. So our hope is to get a sunshade for the lower elementary. We wanna figure out like some fencing for upper, and then some new equipment for the older kids too. We anticipate it'll probably be around 300,000 or so. So we have our goals high. Once we figure out that information, we'll know more. As I mentioned, I'm the board president. We have our vice president, Sheree Lang. We have our secretary, Cassie Schmel. Treasurer is Haley Kincaid. Our preschool liaison was Chastity Harden. Family and events chair was Sarah Harlan. And our fundraising chair was Ashton Kirkpatrick. So you can see we raised over $16,000 this past school year. That wouldn't have been possible without Ashton and her leadership in that role. She'd rally the teachers, get all the information out, help them facilitate all that, and then all the events that we had were made possible for our leadership from Sarah Harlan. So the last thing I'll say, unless there's any questions, is on June 2nd, Friday, we're gonna have Lakeview family event for staff, students, and their siblings and parents. Parents have to be there. It's a movie night on the football field. So we'll be showing Yes Day on Netflix, or it's a Netflix movie, and we'll have some food set up, or food trucks set up there too. We know it's a busy time of year. That was the best date that seemed to work-ish. So it should be fun if you all want to come out and see.
What day was that?
It's Friday, June 2nd. The food trucks open at 7:30. And then we anticipate the movie starting around 8:40-ish, depending on when that sun sets.
Summer.
Yeah, right? I know, it's a
Yeah.
good thing.
And I saw that, I think the youth baseball and softball and stuff kind of moved their games around to accommodate
Yeah.
that, so that was really nice.
Yes, yeah. It's a group effort. I will say, being a little more aware of the school and being in there. Our teachers deal with a lot, as you guys know. Our principals deal with a lot. I hope they feel the support from the PTO group. We have had 5 or 7 parents that help with teacher appreciation. We can't do it without the volunteers too, so we are excited for this next year and kind of figuring out how we can partner and kind of fill in those gaps as Terry sees fit or student needs come up throughout. It was probably over 5 minutes, but.
No, honestly, Lakeview PTO has been a huge positive for this school year. Just awesome stuff. And I know it was prior to being Lakeview PTO, but the gals involved with this were heavily, well, they were the people who ran the Give a T-shirt to every kid and then springboarded off of that into helping make PTO happen. Sarah definitely being an important lead on that, and just huge appreciation for what you guys have done to make the year awesome.
It's fun. Our big thing is making every student feel inclusive. I think the t-shirts set that off. You know, some kids were crying in a happy way. I feel I'm a big red, I have a t-shirt now. So every kid, if we can have a couple events a year that every kid feels like they belong, we're doing our part. Any other questions?
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you for coming. It was so fun to see you at
Yes,
our
it was.
status.
I attended their meeting and I was, felt very welcome.
Yeah.
There was like 3 of us. It was the worst Wednesday of like the year.
There was a lot going on at that meeting, let me tell you.
Oh yeah, there's some tears that
Yeah.
they usually are for me, I guess. Happy tears, like helpful tears.
Oh, yeah, it was all good, it was all
Yeah.
good.
So yeah, if you see these floating around this summer, they're supposed to be.
Okay. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Good luck on the soccer field.
Yeah, apparently we have to scrimmage tonight against them, so. Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, Charlie said, you have shin guards. I'm like, okay, well.
You
Thank
got
you.
this.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Would this be something that we could put on our district website or something like that?
Yeah, I think we've kind of talked about ways to kind of work with PTOs and boosters and stuff to get things out for people. And again, that's part of that, paring down our, what we've got in our Facebook presence and trying to draw people to our main page as much as possible rather than side pages to help get interest out on this kind of thing. Yeah, absolutely. Our next celebration is Noelle Craver to share a little bit about some amazing artwork that she did and an award that she received.
Hi. So I was kind of told to come here and I don't have that much of a plan to talk about. But I recently entered a congressional art camp competition that is district and national wide. There are a lot of entries from each district out of each state in the country, and then the winners in each of those districts get sent to Washington DC, and they get displayed in the Congress building for an entire year. And so I went out of our district, and now I get to go down there during summer to look at the other artwork and also see my artwork put up in a gallery.
All right.
And I could very easily see something, probably Noelle herself there in the Capitol someday running things. I mean, she's definitely one of our students who has major potential to get there, so might be the first time you hear her name associated with running
And you all
things.
seen her?
It's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's really cool.
and I will say I was subbing in art one day, and you were working on a painting there, and I was just blown away. And it was only like probably a quarter of the way done. And I'm like, it wasn't this one, it was another one. I'm like, wow, this is amazing.
Thanks.
And Noelle, what year are you?
Sophomore.
Sophomore. So she's got a couple more years to hone her talents here before she goes off and does something great in her life. And we're really happy about what she does. Congratulations, that's a huge
Thanks.
accomplishment. There were people from all over in that competition. So, thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Hey,
Have a good
Thanks for
day.
coming.
One of our really awesome kids.
There were a lot of great paintings.
Yeah. I thought that was a photograph.
I did too.
First off.
Yeah, I looked at it. Exactly.
Yeah, holy cow.
Yeah.
Who was the other lady that was an artist, went through Centerville and still is on works as an artist?
Is it Llewellyn?
What's that?
The last name Llewellyn?
Yeah, our old art teacher.
Sean.
Yeah,
Sean.
Sean.
Yeah.
Llewellyn?
Yeah.
You know, that all started, she did a drawing of the Twin Towers.
Oh, wow.
Okay, it was really, really good. And my daughter said, you know, you gotta make some prints of those and sell them. And she said, well, I would buy that. Well, I said, well, it's very, very good. Why
Everybody.
don't you make some prints? And she made some prints and they all sold just like that. And she now sells most of her artwork in New York.
Pretty.
Just, it's amazing that when the talent that we can generate here, this gal could be falling right through there.
Seems pretty good.
Yeah. And a super nice kid.
Yeah, that comes through, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All right, we moved item K up next, so it's approval of the Centerville High School project change order. And we have Rochelle on here to talk. Rochelle, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
So do you kind of want to just walk us through this a little bit and help guide us?
Yes, I will. So in front of you, you have change order number 3 for the high school addition renovation. You'll see 4 changes on there. I'll walk through each one of them. Change number 1, that is for the air handling units for the entire addition. So we got word early on in the project that they had almost a 2-year lead time on that particular unit. So we were able to work with the contractor and find an alternate unit. The unit did not cost any more money, but there are a few changes we had to make to the drawings. There was some electrical changes and some structural, so steel changes in order to accomplish that. And so that's where you see that change of 10,000. And this has been discussed at our meetings on site as well. So you guys may also be familiar with this. Number 2, that is for adjusting an increase of the storm drain lines in the, to go to the outside, from the outside of the building to the actual storm lines. Hall Engineering did have an error on their drawing for a smaller size. So this would be increasing it to the correct size. Just so you know, it's not listed on here, but there was a pipe that was already installed that they are actually paying the entire cost to replace it to the correct size. So Hall has participated in that conversation and they are paying for the replacement of an entire line because it was sized incorrectly. So just so you know, but this is not work that has been done. This is work that has not been done. So that's why you see the $2,500 there for that one. Item number 3 was we ran into some unforeseen utilities on site at the hike. So we have a new hydrant going into place and we had to relocate where that hydrant was located because there was some water lines, and then also a sanitary line actually ran right where we were going to run the line. So we had to maneuver that and change the location of that. The other option would have been doing the connection out in the street, which would have cost you quite a bit more because we would have had to replace quite a bit of concrete. So this was the most economical option, is moving the hydrant, the fire hydrant. So we moved that, and that was, as you can see there, $9,964. The final one that you see on here is also this was an unknown condition. We had a water line that we had to repair because it was not located on site. And that cost to repair that line was $2,678. So the total cost to the project was $25,158.98. And that was taken directly out of contingency. So we have that $250,000 right now in the project for unforeseen conditions, soil issues, things like that. And you can see that is still pretty hefty. We have a remaining balance of that of $180,676.31. Any questions from me?
Any questions from the board on this change order?
Motion to approve change order. Second.
The motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next is approval of the Centerville High School project value engineering item. Rochelle, will let you take this one as well.
Great, sounds good, thank you. So we have a change, a value engineering item that came up that we got costing back for, and that was for the parking lot. So for the parking lot, we were looking at the cost to remove the concrete from the parking lot on the south side. It's the staff parking lot there on the south side of the project. And we were going to keep the curb and gutter around the parking lot, just not pour the concrete, and then have the gravel remain. So that cost came in at $69,426.79. So that came in at that would be to save a credit back to you guys. The question would be is that something you want to do, or do you want to not do that value engineering item?
So this is, instead of paving, we'd be doing a gravel lot at a difference of $69,400-ish, $500-ish bucks. When we talked about it at the construction meeting, I think the people in the room kind of seemed to say, well, gosh, you turn around 2 years later and pave that, you're gonna pay that easily to do that.
Probably double that.
Or more than
Yeah.
that. You're probably going close to 900.
Darren, I didn't see that.
So a second, and Rochelle, maybe I'll start this, but maybe you can guide it a little better after I get this ball rolling. If we did not accept that value engineering item and continued forward with paving that as a paved lot, the challenge is to do it the way that it's listed. They would then be taking out the gravel lot back there, and we would be down about 25 parking spaces. So obviously, to survive another year with 25 less parking spaces might be pretty challenging for us. So we talked about maybe not pouring the curb and leaving the gravel there. A little bit of savings, I believe, on not removing the gravel right now, something we'll need to turn around and do at some point in the future. But after the project's done, so the students can still park there, and the curb is something eventually we'll wanna add also. But something that we talked about there, we looked at whether we could do a curb and still have a spot to go around into the gravel lot, and it just didn't look like there was enough space there between where the building was and where that lot needed to end. Am I kind of saying that about right there, would you say, Rochelle?
Yes, yeah, that sounds right, Mark.
So that's the real challenge with this one, I think.
So we basically lose 25 parking spots for the next year,
If we do the curb.
and if we spend the $70,000, we get a paid parking lot.
Right, yeah, I mean, it's kind of two parts, right? So the one part is the paving, and then the other part is what do we do about for this next year? And I think one thing that the guys from Bi-State said, and Aaron, you'll probably say this better than me, but he talked about what if instead of doing the curb, you over poured the concrete by like 1.5 feet, so that anything that, as you're driving over that into gravel for a year, anything that gets damaged on that end, you can cut off before you put the curb. To be able to have that, when we get our new lot down at the, what is that, north side of the high school there.
Because the concrete he's talking about wouldn't be, that cost wouldn't be concreting the staff parking lot plus the gravel. It would just be just where the staff parking lot is projected to go.
Which is about up to the edge of that building, right? Yeah.
So on this, then we want, if we approve the value engineering item, we're taking that away.
So we would be graveling
We'd be
that
gravel.
lot. All of it. Yeah,
So-
curbing and graveling that lot.
So we have to even, yeah, I guess, not knowing, but if we want to pave it, do we do anything with this item right now?
Well, that's a good question, Rochelle, because if we wanted to pave it, but say we decided the curb part was a part we needed to change, so, and keep the gravel lot, so we have the parking we need, we'd need a different change order to come our way at that point, wouldn't we?
Yes, we'd have to talk to Bi-State to see if they would give us any cost back for removing that gravel. I would think so, but we'd have to double check with them and get that cost.
And we would need to, at that point, we would be turning down the value engineering item, if we did that, right?
Yes, you would be turning that down, correct?
It seems as though that within about 5 years, we're probably gonna be doing a lot of parking lot paving.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe it's time to take advantage of saving some money now, and then do all of this parking lot paving in one shot. Is my way of thinking about it.
And that's kind of what the team was thinking that was there, just looking at it. It just kind of felt like people felt that it would be a bad decision to just try to save now when we're gonna be paying probably more later to do it.
But I think, I assume we're probably gonna pave that parking lot north of where the old high school is at some point.
Yeah, we have to, how long is it we have to wait? There's a certain number of years
I
we're
think we
supposed to
were
wait.
3 years is what we talked about.
Yeah, so that's my 5-year
Yeah.
idea was in 5 years, we're probably
We have
gonna do,
that.
all we're gonna do is be doing a lot of parking paving at that point.
Yeah.
So that would be a good time to come back and catch this
Mhm.
while we're doing that.
Yeah,
So I would say, let's not pave anything, let's not curb anything, let's just keep on going.
So you wanna accept the,
So on that, if you're thinking that way, then we'd accept the value engineering.
right, that would be accepted.
Yes, we would accept the value.
You can move with that, Chris?
I was just discussing.
Okay.
I'm on the side of paying it now because we don't know what in 5 years that's gonna be, I mean, it's gonna be bad enough having one gravel lot that the majority of students are gonna be parking on. If we can get it now, yeah, I know we're not saving what we had value engineered out, but, I know 5 years ago, we did some things at work and we piecemealed it, and we came back 5 years later, and if we would've just done it then, could've got the entire project done for that cost, so.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's me, I like the idea, pave it, extend it out a foot, no curb, keep the gravel. So I would decline this value engineer and then have it
So
shot back.
I'm trying to understand, if we do it that way, we still lose the 25 parking.
Right,
Correct.
yeah.
If we pave it,
If we-
but no curb.
The curb is what
Keep the
causes
gravel.
us to lose the spots.
Yeah, and the curb is just in one spot, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
He's saying do not do the curb, so you keep the 25.
so then it just goes directly
The
into,
pavement gonna stay.
If anything, we'll have more parking if you pave it,
Right.
eliminate the curb and keep the
Right.
extended gravel.
now when we
We'll have even more.
someday go back and pull that gravel and turn that into grass again though,
Then we can-
well, we need to put a curb there is my understanding, is that right, Rochelle? We'd have to have a curb then?
You're gonna have to have a curb around a majority of it, except for over on that where the gravel parking lot is now. We do need to look at the grades a little bit along the south side of that because they get pretty steep. So we would want to maybe just look at that.
Put a rail or a bollard or something.
There are some steep grades in that
So-
area.
I think the curb is to channel the water, not to stop the garbage. The curb would be to channel the water, is that right, Rochelle?
Yeah, the curb and gutter basically channel the water to the
Yeah.
actual intakes.
So, yeah, we could make that part of the big project later.
Yeah.
Okay,
So if we take no action on this at all,
It just dies.
or it just dies and we're going forward with the paving of,
We would still need last day to come back.
But we,
with the curb.
Removing
would
the
you,
curb.
would the board direct us to ask for information on a potential change order to overpour the concrete if we do that, so that we could cut off
I
a
think,
foot
yeah, I think that makes
before we
sense.
curb, so that anything that would get damaged in
that's good,
shoveling,
that's good.
I think that's what we need to do.
or what do you call that, when you, in the winter, when you do the snow, yeah, plowing.
So we need to,
So basically not take action on this.
I think we need to,
I
actually, I
think
think we
you
need to
guys
decline it.
actually did accept
So you'd have to vote to
C2.
decline it.
So I think you would actually have to
We have to-
vote to
Decline
decline
that
it,
and
because
then they
you
would
had
come
accepted
back.
it, but let me make sure about
They
it.
would come back with something else.
Yeah, I can't remember what we did with the,
Well, and they brought that to us in the construction meeting just because of the cost. You know, didn't realize it was gonna be as near
close as it
what it was
was.
gonna be.
I'm really glad, thank you, Rochelle, for thinking of the fact that it would be lost parking spots, though. Because if we'd have just moved forward with everything, not knowing that we'd lose parking spots, that would have been a disaster come August.
A disaster come November.
Yeah.
so Lisa checking real quick to see if we actually did, approve change the original value engineering.
You have accepted that value engineering item in the September meeting.
Okay, so on this one, if the board chose, then we need an order or a motion to deny this change order and possibly direct staff to look at future, change order for curb work, curb and gutter work.
At the August 15th meeting, you guys accepted that value engineering item. We just hadn't, I don't think, Rochelle, that we have the final number for it. So that was one of the two that we didn't have the final number.
Correct. You did not have the final number for it at that time.
So, move to deny the change order.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to deny the high school value engineering item,
C2.
C2. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. Motion passes.
So you're moving forward with it. Just want to make sure that, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Rochelle, so we'll probably need information on a potential change order for overpouring that concrete.
Yep, we'll look into it. I will talk to Bi State and see what they're thinking on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item C. $2,040,000 school infrastructure.
Stronger connections.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's what I, yeah, B. Yeah, don't worry about this, guy here.
And this one's really quick and easy, but exciting. Lisa and I worked on a grant that the state had put out, and actually, ironically, they'd sent emails to the superintendent groups and the SBL groups a number of times, saying, hey, send in some applications for this. We'd really like to get this out to schools. We did a survey through our Facebook on need and ideas that our community had for ways to support students and just kind of the things we were looking at. We applied for the grant to support the decision that we had processed to move back to a full-time social worker instead of a part-time social worker at Lakeview, and we were awarded the grant. The amount we applied for was $100,000. Generally, over the course of 2 years, generally the understanding is you'll probably get the amount you applied for, but they have it was like a 10-day period, I think, where they had to allow any schools that applied and didn't get the grant to be able to contest it, to try to say, well, I should have gotten it and you didn't consider X, Y, Z, and that could reduce everybody's award amount by a little bit if somebody's successful in contesting, but there were quite a few schools. I think it was 42 schools out of that, what do we got, 327 districts in the state that received it, so that's a pretty good number. So certainly the ones that are contesting it probably won't be successful and won't get what we're looking for. But we got a great grant to support a social worker, so huge win.
Any questions or anything else on that? Okay, moving on to item C. CD&E all works with the bonds that we just sold at the last meeting, right, Lisa?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically what we're looking for in item C is approving the paying agent, bond registrar, and transfer agent agreement, and authorizing the execution of the same.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second, need a roll call, please?
Mike Thomas,
Yes.
Bob Thomas.
Yes.
Shondell,
Yes.
Berger's absent, Carter,
Yes.
Liskus,
Yes.
Moore.
Yes. Okay, moving on to item D, again, staying on the bond issues, this is the approval of the tax exemption certification. Again, a roll call. Yes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, roll call, please.
Mike Thomas,
Yes.
Bob Thomas.
Yes.
Shondell,
Yes.
Berger's absent, Carter, Liskus,
Yes.
Moore.
Yes. Moving on to item D, authorizing the terms of issuance and providing for and securing the payment of school infrastructure sales, service, and use tax revenue bonds.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, and roll call, please.
Mike Thomas,
Yes.
Bob Thomas.
Yes.
Shondell, Berger's absent, Carter,
Yes.
Liskus,
Yes.
Moore.
Yes. That looks scary in the packet, so.
That's 200.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to item F, action on the 2023-2024 virtual academy. There's some handouts in the packet. Well, this is something that we've talked about over the past, and I think we started this in the 2021 school year. So kind of looking at different options here. I don't know if Mark or Mecca want to speak on this, and
Well, so, there's some history kind of, and I'm coming into it a little behind the 8 ball this year for some of the history, but in my document that I shared with you, you can kind of see some of the models that have been followed. Mecca, correct me when I say something wrong, please. So the first year, the method used to provide virtual school was to have a couple people on staff who kind of oversaw the program and helped with homework help, things of that nature, Mecca and Emily, and then could pay for the full Edmentum program, which that's, and I'm still scrolling through bond pages to get to my my page here, so that full Edmentum model is the third option that you've got there. So it pays for a larger licensing fee, but it teaches all the classes to the kids in the virtual setting. And then your folks who kind of oversee it are just there to help kind of, I think, with homework and signing them up for the classes, make sure the system is doing the right things for them, tech support for the students, things of that nature. Obviously, I think there were some pros and cons to that. It sounds like the district moved away from that because of the costs of the Edmentum license per student. So they moved to what is labeled in your packet as current model. I do have a note on current model there. Obviously, the two people who ran the current model, we've gotten into different positions with us for next year. Well, not really different. Emily will still serve the same role, but hopefully through our high school. And Mecca obviously will be teaching for us next year. The cost for Edmentum was significantly cheaper with that, but a challenge that came up is the English, math, social studies, and science teacher. They weren't really compensated for their time, so it's not really fair to ask a lot of their time for that. So that's where that model can't work moving forward. If we're going to ask people to put in time beyond a full load, we need to pay them for that. So that's where you get, I believe it's option 4, revision of current model, which is basically paying, and all of the salaries listed in here are based on just kind of picking out a random year, BA step 8 salary. So obviously if you hire a person with more experience or more licensure or more classes, then that goes up. But the Edmentum licenses would be the same in that model. We would add a stipend for a math, science, social studies, ELA at K-6 general person in order to fairly compensate the people for their time. We would need still a virtual school management person. In there I put a non-certified salary because that person doesn't technically need to be certified, but they do need to be pretty tech savvy to do that work. Am I doing okay so far here? Okay. And
The only thing that I would say is within that model is, it would be less expensive, quite honestly, if for the K-5 world, to use totally Edmentum rather than having an individual. And we found that to be very beneficial for our littles because they had the same teacher. And most of them attended class when class was going on. It was a totally different model than our middle and high school.
Thank you. You mentioned that when I started to take notes for this, and I missed that. Another option should we decide to use it is we have a tentative, and I say tentative because it's not a guaranteed offer to potentially join the VIBE consortium that's run by Burlington Schools. So I know the folks who run it. Obviously, my wife has taught that this year, so I kind of know what that model does. They have they have over the internet in-person time with someone. So there's some synchronous learning, some asynchronous learning. We would pay 88% of that student's cost per pupil to Burlington for their license to be a part of that. Any special education services for a student we would provide, and we would still be on the hook for some tech support, some, hey, we need to get supplies to your kids. When you go to the superintendent meeting, can you meet up with our superintendent? We'll give you stuff, things of that, like that. That's a fairly pricey model, but they've really put a lot of work into building. I think one thing that we're running into, maybe I should preface, is I asked Emily and Mecca to kind of share with me this success level of our students in the virtual program right now. And we have some students who are knocking it out of the park, doing a great job. Unfortunately, that's a little under 50% right now of the students who are doing all of the work. And I think the challenge is we need to do something to encourage kids to be learning well, becoming lifelong learners, and contribute positively to society with any program that we offer to our students. So a little shake-up of some sort is definitely in order. So at least with this, there's some accountability folks for each content area. Right now, Mecca, I think, is kind of stuck being accountability for every content area. And that's certainly hard to keep up with the students. It's not a guarantee that the VIBE consortium would approve us. It's just a tentative, we'd be willing to try if you guys want to work with us. They work with some districts over in their area right now on that. Another option we do have is not continuing with the virtual school, which there is some risk with that too. Obviously, our hope would be that we'd bring a lot of students back into the classroom and be able to teach them face to face, but there is certainly risk that some students may choose to engage with a virtual program elsewhere, like CAM or Clayton Ridge or one of those.
This number 27, that's how many kids we have?
27.
And how many of those kids come from different districts?
These are all our kids.
We don't have any
All,
from other districts?
yeah, we have none from other districts.
I thought that's what we did. We wanted the virtual so we could have the option of.
We are unable to provide that at this time because we did not go through the accreditation with the state. And since then, of course, other open enrollment things have been opened up that were not available to us at the start of the school year. So we were not able to do that, and we were not, because we were changing our model again, we wanted to do a really good job before we sought that accreditation and started bringing in students from other districts. If I might speak just a couple more things to the current model, as we think about any of the models in terms of changing, and I say this all the time because I'm here and I'm very passionate and caring, for our students in this community. Most of our students that are a part of the virtual academy are a part of our academy for a particular reason that inhibits them from going into a building face to face, whether that is anxiety or current living arrangements or health. And so when we think about our success rate, I guess this particular year, think about truly, I have tried, along with Emily, to support, our students in terms of curriculum, and again, as Mr. Taylor said, no fault to our teachers that, we thought that we could have on board and provide that support, but our model just kind of fell flat this year a little bit when we're looking at that. And
Mecca, I apologize. I did not mean to imply in any way, shape, or form. Mecca and Emily haven't worked hard at that.
No, that's totally okay. The thing that I would say that regardless, the first year, second year, next year, the year after that, because our clientele is coming to us within the virtual academy, we need that support from a social worker, a nurse, a school counselor. So it concerns me a smidge if we say we would use potentially a program outside of our district, because I feel like they're all still our kids, and we want to make sure that, they're getting a great education, but also, again, if I might speak freely to this, I really worry about some of our students, and making sure that they feel connected. If you know anything about online learning, or if you have ever taken an online course yourself, you feel alone, for one thing. And so just having a person with that expertise that understands what it looks like in an online environment and helping to support that student. So whatever the decision might be, it's near and dear to my heart, this program and providing a quality online education for our students. Again, when we look at the success, we do have lots of successes. I will say that, students have attended the community sessions that we have. We wanted to make sure that our students were still connected. We did have students that came for dances, or, have asked, can I be a part of graduation? Those sort of things. So they still want to be connected to the school, is my point, and to our community. And my hope going forward is that we're able to find a way for our virtual students to continue to be I guess, a part of our district, whatever those decisions might be.
Mark, what was the statistic you said a little bit ago, 50%?
11 out of 27 are said to be completing all work. I think it was 67% that's completing a large portion of work. So there are definitely some students within this who are using this right. And I think that's one of the things that you're saying. And in particular, I would urge us, if we're on the fence, I think one thing we probably should do is to look at some of our students who have been Centerville students all along and maybe have been enrolled in an online program all along, maybe doing something for some juniors and seniors next year that have been through, because I would imagine we're looking at a number of students there who maybe were planning to graduate as Centerville students through that program. But the other challenge with that is that to do any of the other models, we need to find people to run them, and that means not putting some of those people in other classroom settings. We've been pretty lucky so far finding people, but I think anybody in the know knows that the well dries up eventually, because there's a teacher shortage on right now that's hurting a lot of districts. It's a tough question to answer, but you know, I talked through this item a little bit with Kevin last week, and we just thought, gosh, we really need to let the board weigh in on this one and not just make a decision, just to let it be a conversation about what we think is right. I have concerns that for many of our students, we may not be giving them, and not because of the staff, but because of the way that virtual systems are set up. And I will tell you, this is true in all of them. I've had conversations with my own wife, who has taught in that VIBE program this year, that sometimes there are some challenges of not being connected, and therefore a kid who's not connected doesn't do the work. My belief in this growing era of school competition that we're entering in is the thing that we can sell all day is the interaction with our teachers. And that's what makes coming to Centerville schools good. So it's tough for me to see kids not succeeding, a number of kids not succeeding, and think that I couldn't make a bigger difference if I could surround them with the staff of one of our buildings.
If I could say something about those numbers also, those were current numbers at that time.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's not just like face-to-face, but I think any educator, middle school, high school, would say that, you know, there is a push.
At the end.
At the end,
Yeah.
I mean, I looked at the D's and F's at the high school alone, and, you know, one would be really worried in looking at those right now. But again, through the support of educators, administrators, the paraeducators, most often students pull it together enough to pass. And that generally is the case with our virtual students. While it might be 67% right now or last week, they will complete the work. We have had success stories as well. One particular individual that started with us from Howard, and she's been very successful this year. And I think if she had an opportunity, she would continue to be successful in her online program. You know, again, that's that one C star that we talk about throwing back in. But you know, we have had success, but it has definitely come with challenges.
And no matter what decision we make, there's 27 families affected by it in this, so obviously it's important. And,
Can I ask a question, because I'm not on the agenda at all, but I
don't
just
think
don't-
we're able to ask, I don't think
Okay.
we're allowed to,
that's fine.
yeah.
sorry.
Okay. I just didn't see one option that I thought you should look at, but that's okay.
You know, no program is 100% successful. That is a goal,
That's true.
but it's not realistic to think that you're gonna have 100% success. And I'm also a firm believer that If you wanna know how to do it, you ask the people that are doing it, what do you need, and get it to them. It's just that simple.
Right.
I can't sit here and decide what that program needs. I mean, I outlined, what, 4 or 5 different options there, but I don't think I can make that choice. I think the people that are doing the work need to say, this is what I need today, and I might need something different next month. It has to be an evolving thing.
So I guess kind of what my hope in putting this item on the agenda is to get direction from the board of whether you want a virtual school program that actually meets the needs built, whether you want us to sign on with an organization that has one built, that signs districts on, or to not have a virtual program. Really, that's what this comes down to. It's the direction of the board that I'll follow, because any one of those 3 options I can work through and make happen. But I guess I'm just kind of looking for the board to say, this is the direction we'd like to see you go with this. And then I'll start hitting the trail to find us bodies and get things rolling if we need to.
My personal opinion, these kids need to be in school, but I'm one, and there's obviously 27 other families, for whatever reason, have chosen this, and to me, we have really 2 options. If we're gonna do it on our own, we gotta go big or go home and make it right, and do it the right way. Not that it hasn't been now.
Yeah, and I think the people who've got it work hard, their hands have just been tied.
Right. But, you know, and I read through this several times, did a little self-Google research, I guess, over the weekend. The vibe kind of intrigued me. I'd like to get a little bit more information on that. The fact that they're still Centerville students can still do our activities, but it's instruction by the teachers that have done this day in, day out. You know, because my worry is, well, you know, the stipend's gonna be nice for our own staff, but at what point is it gonna become too much? And then they come back and say, you know what, I don't wanna do this.
Right.
You know,
Which is fair, because I mean, you can't force probably could, but I don't want to get in the business of forcing a person to teach an overload. I think that's wrong to do.
I mean, if
Lisa wanted to say something?
No, I just want, obviously, I just want you guys to take into account financial, because we're paying for this with ESSER. So, after the next year, and then, I mean, we have to weigh how many you might lose though, and we would have to count for that too. But I just want to make sure everybody knows that at this time, that's where it's being paid for.
And I kind of
So
spoke.
I'd like to ask a question when I get a break, get a chance.
Okay. I'm gonna say something, then we'll get right to you, Kevin. I spoke with Lisa before the meeting about this, and, I think when we originally signed on for this, it was with ESSER money, right? And we said we'd give it 2 to 3 years and look at it. We're at that point now. Knowing that after this, we have to go to general, you know, we have to take it out of the budget here, no more ESSER money. If we continue on that path, okay, and I mean, I don't want to sound out of point here, but we're talking, if we have to come up with this amount of money, we may have to lose classroom teachers to continue this.
You think that's true, Lisa?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And that's kind of, to me, that's where this is coming down to.
But the former superintendent kind of gave a program that we needed this virtual school, or our account was gonna go down, there would be homeschooled or go someplace else. And so for our survival financially, we needed this program. And
So
so
there's the catch.
how many of those 27 kids would not stay with Centerville if we got rid of this program? How much?
At least 15 right now.
15 times $7,700.
And those are the people that I've talked with,
Gotcha.
that have reached out, and, you know, asked for other information because I haven't shared yes or no. but they've asked for other information.
So you're gonna lose a teacher there too.
Well, but looking at this, okay, I guess the way I'm looking at it, okay, you're right, we would lose that too. Are we losing, and not saying this is happening, okay, by any means, okay, but we're losing, what classroom teacher needs to be a fourth grade teacher that has multiple sessions, right? Multiple kids that are coming through there, as opposed to one, I mean, you're talking about one for 27 students.
Here's the catch-22 in it, and this is why I come to you for feedback on this. There is a good chance that financially it's gonna be a raw deal to keep it, and financially it's gonna be a raw deal to get rid of it. Chances are, it's gonna be rough either way.
Which hurts the most.
Well,
That's
if you're asking me as an educator, losing students hurts the most, because that's students that I don't have the ability to influence with the organization that I run. As an educator, I mean, as a band teacher, the worst time of year was spring, when people were like, I'm not gonna do band next year, because I knew that I couldn't make an impact on those kids. And I think losing kids hurts a whole lot, because you can't make a difference for them then. Financially, it would depend on how many would decide to stay or how many would decide to go. That's difficult to predict, because as of the time that I asked, it was 10 that were absolutely no, and 17 that were maybes or yeses to stay. It sounds like now it's 15 that are absolute no's. And I think sometimes when the rubber hits the road and a decision's made, then people need to take some time to make a decision after that.
And I don't wanna worry people, I'm not saying we're gonna have to, you know, I'm just saying that that's something we have to take into account moving forward.
Kevin, do you have a question then?
Yeah, I've got several of them, thanks. I don't know if this is Mecca question or Mark question. Of the 27 students, how many of them, if they were in classrooms, would be in each of the buildings? So how many in Lakeview, how many in Howard, how many in high school?
Next year,
Yeah, either this year, next year, doesn't matter.
15 in high school, 9 at Howard, and 3.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's close. That gives me that's kind of tells me what I wanted to know. So high school heavy.
Yes,
Yes.
Okay. So do you have any correlation between the demographics that Mark read earlier regarding how much of the work is being completed and student success? In other words, is there a correlation between doing work and being successful? And is there a correlation between not doing the work and not being successful?
I mean, I feel like it's probably too reductive to say definitely, but I would assume, you mean in terms of grading through the virtual program?
Right.
Does Edmentum, does it grade differently based on not doing the work, or is it just on assessment?
Oh, so students get a current grade and then students get a course grade, if that makes sense.
So does the daily work factor into the grade, or is it just assessment?
So there are, yes, there are activities, there are quizzes, and then there are like post-tests.
So let me try this a different way. On the students that are not doing the work, are they passing the class?
They won't eventually if they don't do the work, because that's the difference between the current grade and the course grade.
So are the students that aren't doing a lot of the work, are they not doing a lot of the work in one class or all of their classes?
They have the opportunity to choose the classes that they're going to work on, and the students that have the most struggles, you will see that they complete the 1 or 2 classes more quickly, that they enjoy or they don't struggle in.
So it's it's maybe a little mix on which ones they're doing
Yes.
the work, which one they're not. Okay.
Correct.
All right. I wouldn't have predicted that, so thank you. That's why I asked. I guess the reason I'm asking these questions is if we have a lot of students, especially at the middle school and high school level, that are not doing the work and they're not successful in the class, then my position is if we go forward with the virtual academy, we need to work out a plan with them and parents of expectations to participate in the work if they want to remain enrolled in the virtual.
And the
Because if
great,
they're not-
Becca has a lot of good like work on that. She's got some policies that just, the history of the program haven't been well enforced. So I think we just need to make it very clear with people at the beginning of the year that those expectations will be enforced, and if students do not keep up on the work, that they'll.
My thought is because if we have students that are online, virtual, doing the work and being successful, and they're doing well, then I have no problem supporting that. But if we have students and families that are going into virtual for maybe avoidance reasons, to avoid going to school or to avoid this, and they're not getting the work done, and they're not learning, and they're not passing the classes, that's a child that we're allowing to fail, and we should take action on that.
So my question, I guess, kind of going along with that model and the guidelines or whatever, so if they're not doing what they're supposed to do, and we say you can no longer continue virtual, they have to go to school physically.
Their option with us would be that.
Okay.
You go to school physically.
They can find a different virtual.
That is something that somebody could do at that point. with
And
the
Mike,
way-
sometimes it depends on their age. So,
Right.
you know, if they're, you know, a mandatory attender, you know, we have completed the paperwork. Thankfully, I think it was just once this year, you know, that we've gone to the court process and put something in place. In theory, it sounds really, really easy to say to a student, 3-4 weeks into a virtual program, you're not being successful, you have to go back to the building. But asking them to go back to the building, there's then that other issue of, okay, now this teacher is 4 weeks into their curriculum, they're leaving virtual to come back, and so.
Which is the same when we have a student move
Right.
in October.
And so we face, you know, we face those things. The policies are definitely in place. And this year, one of the questions that I think that you actually brought it up was about the amount of time that they needed to attend, you know, as a virtual student. And we increased that by 5 hours, which doesn't sound a lot, but we increased that by 5 hours and also stated you have to attend virtual school in a 7-day period. So we took attendance every Monday morning and we would run it through Sunday, and we would look that they were online for a minimum of 25 hours, but in each course they had to be at 70%. And then we left them alone. They would have perfect attendance, you know, we wouldn't ask them to come in. We then put in layers in place. The first week then that you didn't attend for 25 hours, you weren't hitting that 70%, then we would set up a plan with them. We would talk to parents, you know, what does that look like? A lot of times we found out that, you know, maybe it was a single parent and they were working and the student was at home. So then we would put in layers again to support that student. Well, we need you to be on, you know, during this period of time with myself or Emily to try again, to get some, you know, support in there. The second week, then we would start asking the student to come in. And so we have right now on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, for example, all day long, we have students that are coming into our office. And, you know, we're helping them either get caught up or answer questions that they have. So there are policies, I guess, and procedures, you know, that are in place. And again, I understand that 67% number is scary, but I am very confident saying that 90-some% of them will be successful by the end of the school year.
So
It
there
just
is-
comes with the beast.
There is a
the
model
nature of
that we
the beast.
absolutely cannot do. I cannot recommend to you as your superintendent, and that is the current setup where we ask teachers who are teaching a full load to, for free, oversee a program like that. We cannot do that. That's not fair. It's not right.
It's not fair to the teachers nor the
Yeah.
families, so,
Yeah.
I agree.
I guess one question would be, you know, what's your long term as far as this program? Because I know some of these, you know, the question is, are we going to allow more, or are we going to keep it with these 27 families as they go through the system? Because I think the answer to that is going to help direct us a little bit further.
I would suggest we be careful about adding a lot of people right now.
Right.
We had some semester additions, some of which for some legitimate reasons, some of which for some avoidance issues. And I just really want to be careful about providing a path of least resistance. Because I think it's our duty to provide a quality education and to ensure that students are able to get that quality education. And I think allowing it to happen for avoidance issues could be a problem. There are some legitimate reasons that went a semester too.
Well, I think, you know, there's always an exception to every rule, you know, if
Right.
there was a true reason, then, you know, it would be you know, devise a policy on that.
Yeah.
In the future, I mean, I guess, I don't know, you look at the dollars spent, and if we're not looking necessarily to grow this, again, I go back to the, okay, you know, do we, you know, as some staff been talked to on buy-in for this stipend to potentially?
Not yet, no.
Because that's gonna be number one.
I would say if we thought that that model was a model we wanted to go forward with, I'd want to start beating the bushes, beating the tree. I don't know how you say that, to get people interested. I'd start looking for interest ASAP and start rolling on that to figure out what that looks like. Again, finding the right people's the key. And if we had, you know, the right people in place and it seemed like things were going well and things were working, then could it be that we turn around and say, hey, maybe this can move towards accreditation, maybe it can be a place for open enrollment in the future. Maybe we, instead of being part of one of the consortiums, maybe we'd be a competitive consortium, maybe. I just know that the model that was used this year doesn't allow for that.
What are our neighbors doing around this?
Albia was with somebody, I think, for their thing. I know Sheraton told me that he was looking at options. I don't know a lot that's going on with this, to be honest with you. A lot of people are real hesitant now, just because they saw kind of the early ones hop out there, and some people kind of lost some steam after their first couple of years with it. I think everybody thought this was going to be the great digital awakening, and everybody was going to need a virtual school, and you're going to have it because people were still kind of dealing with the global pandemic and all that, and it just has kind of died off for a lot of people. That being said, there are programs like Burlington's program that are going strong and continuing to grow. There are definitely some pros to it, but I think it's just a matter of if we pick our direction, you know, my hope would be whatever direction we choose, we stay with for a while and chart the course then.
Derek, when Emily and I created this one, we followed Oskaloosa. I visited with the curriculum director there multiple times, and
they've got a pretty big program there. Yep.
But they got, you know, we talk about other places that have other programs. Do we know how they're doing? Do we know what their success rate is?
I could probably find that out.
You know, that's,
Yeah.
and I kind of fall back to what Lisa said. I don't care what program we got. Darn thing's about got to pay for itself. I mean, we can lend a little bit that direction, you know, to keep kids involved, but at the same time, and from a business standpoint, which is kind of the part we take here, is that it has to make financial sense.
My other concern, I guess, it kind of goes, it's with the virtual academy and the alternative school. When you look at those numbers, you're talking about 10% of our total high school population that's not in school, that's not in the high school. me, that's a problem.
It is, but if you look historically, you go back 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, and you look at how many kids started out in, say, kindergarten, first grade, and how many actually graduated, that less than 10%, not unrealistic number at all. And what they did is they just quit. And we didn't go after them. We didn't offer an alternative school. We didn't offer them, you know, other options. They just stay home. And that was okay in society. You know, you didn't finish high school, okay. You know, work down at a factory or whatever. So I don't think not having kids in school is necessarily a bad thing. I think we could do more for them if they weren't sitting in a seat in front of us. I agree. But school's not for everybody. You know, the regular school is just not gonna work for everybody.
I guess I don't have a problem for the kids that absolutely need virtual. I don't think there's 27. Just my opinion, I guess.
So, when do you, so,
See why this has been a big issue for trying to figure it out this year, because it's pretty multifaceted, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot to this, and the beauty of it is we got a group of people around the table and online there, and with Mecca back there. Our goal is really just about making sure we're doing the best for every kid we can do the best for. And what's that look like is the question.
I think, when do we need to have a decision made by?
Well, if I'm gonna be hiring people, I need to know. Like, I need to post a position and find people, to get the job done. If we found, so what I probably would look at, say we were gonna do the revision of the current model, which is the one where we have a person who's in charge of managing it, the teacher stipends and the cheaper admin and licenses. So it's similar to now, but it's fairly compensating the teachers who are teaching an overload, or, you know, maybe not teaching for us, but teaching math for a period for virtual. I would even probably post first, just as post out a certified position, because if I could get a person with a few certifications that could do a few of the classes and the management as on a teacher salary, that would make some sense. And I could oversee them as or have the curriculum director oversee them as the administrator if we did that. But if we're gonna hire, we wanna act soon so we can get people while they're still out there. If we're gonna go with a consortium, obviously they would need to make sure that their board is comfortable with adding another school. Probably the approach for that would be like a sharing agreement where like they would talk to their board, approve adding a school, and then we would talk at a board meeting and approve that. Not having a school next year, we really would need to let the parents know relatively soon to be fair to them, because we're at the end of the year and I don't want to string people if I can help it.
I like having local control over whatever happens. You know, we gotta know what's best for us. And it's not like we don't have some sort of a track record here, where we kind of know what worked and we know what didn't work. So I think we're into it far enough now that we kind of know what we're gonna tweak here to make it work for us, and hopefully work for the kids.
But then you're gonna have a couple of new people who don't know the system at all.
The good news, I suppose, to that, because yeah, that is a concern. There's going to be a spin-up period for new people, but the good news is that the people who have done it before are in district, and I think probably would be willing to share their knowledge with people. You know, Mecca's not too far to get to over there at the high school, and Emily in that office can certainly come over and help out some too.
So I guess we're looking for a motion on something to do.
One of your proposals was just to keep it open for juniors and seniors to finish.
That was something that I suggested we could allow just our ones who are at the end here to be able to still graduate Centerville students and keep it open for that. That's kind of a compromise. But again, I think that it really is about the goal, right? Is the goal to have this program long-term? Or is the goal to kind of get the people who maybe initially went for whatever reason into the virtual school?
You're saying let the juniors and seniors finish and then dissolve it? Is that what
Yeah,
you're
at that point, yeah. So it would be a planned obsolescence or whatever you'd say with that.
Tell me the number of senior, or the
So
people,
next
next year's
year-
seniors, next year's juniors.
Next year seniors, and Mecca, correct me if I'm wrong, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And next year juniors, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Correct.
So 9 junior seniors,
So the overwhelming majority are still
right,
sophomore and below.
right.
We do have a good chunk of freshmen that will be sophomores that are being successful. And those students have been with us since their 8th grade year.
You know, and part of that process is them learning how to be a good student,
Correct.
you know, and
It takes a whole different skill set,
yeah,
honestly.
I
to be
remember when we
able to-
started the wrestling program in Alaska, the coach went out and found every thug he could find, because the really high athletic kids didn't wanna, they didn't know anything about wrestling, didn't want anything to do with it. But after 3 years, they got off the ground and away it flew. So I think this is the same program. I don't think we've given it enough time to mature. We know there's a need out there. I think we need to give it another year, and let's do it the best way we know how.
Like I said, I'll do whatever I'm directed to do, and I probably will collect ideas that are out there too, if I'm directed one way or the other with this.
You know, thing is, if we keep it in-house and go on our own, I mean, we're committing if we find that person, because we can't just go back a year later and say, we tried it, it didn't work, sorry, thanks for your time.
I do appreciate that, yeah. If we hire somebody, it would be nice not to.
If we're going to do it on our own, we have to commit.
I think this
Yeah,
kind of comes
I'm
up
not
now
educated.
because of staff moving into different positions. Like
Right.
it puts us in a position where before we go hire something,
I mean, okay, what, can we, and I know we need something soon. Could we table this until our June meeting, or is that not gonna be soon enough?
because I think for the sake of the parents, that might be,
Too far out.
yeah, I mean,
The only reason
going into the summer, not knowing if they're gonna have to.
The only reason I asked would just be to give some time to ask the staff we had if there would be interest. Because if we're not gonna have the interest for them to do this,
Right.
we're spinning our wheels.
Well, so there, and my understanding, Mecca, and correct me if I'm wrong, is if, say, for example, we couldn't find an English teacher that would be willing to teach an overload for us, we could contract with Edmentum for a period of English, correct?
Correct.
So you pay an a la carte rate for that per student.
Okay.
So you could do a little bit of that.
So kind of hybrid model.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one of the things we did this year was something like that, like I was the teacher of record for science. You know, and I could be for English language arts, so, you know, we knew that going into it.
And that's where I talked about, like, maybe if we had a certified person that would be the program runner, that person could serve as the science or English, in the case of Mecca, teacher of record as well. And then that helps at least offset some of that cost if we are able to find somebody with that.
I'll give my viewpoint on it, honestly. I've thought about this a lot. From the inception of it, it hasn't produced what, quite honestly, we were told was gonna happen from the time we started this. We are taking a hit either way, keeping it or discontinuing it. I am for getting rid of it at this point. I don't see where anything in this that we have in these options is showing me that it's going to absolutely be successful. that's where I'm at with it.
Kevin, where are you at?
I'm in South Dakota.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, it's open. Okay. I'm not sure that the virtual academy, as I'm in agreement with Mike Moore, is as far along as we wanted it to, based on what we were told 3 years ago. I'm kind of being persuaded a little bit by Mike Thomas saying, let's give it another year. My issue is, I hear the statement about you have a student in whatever grade, maybe a younger grade, who's being raised by a single mom, and it isn't always there to get them the 25 hours. Okay, I hear that. I'm sympathetic to the single mom. Same time, the single mom is the one who made the choice. So I become a little bit, I'm sympathetic to the single mom and what she's having to go through to raise a child. But if she makes a decision, then she's got to support it. So I kind of have to, at this point, saying, you decided that you can do this and you want to keep on pursuing the virtual education, but if you can't keep up, then we need to really have the conversation about pulling that back away, because it's just too hard for you. Because the overlying concern I have is, if we have, and that's why I was asking the correlation questions earlier, is if we have a high correlation of students not doing the work and not being successful, then that tells me that those students should not be in the virtual academy. And if it is a overwhelming percentage of our overall student population, then the whole thing's not working. Now, if we have 27 students and 20 of them are being highly successful, and we just have an issue with 7, then I'm saying we've got a good virtual program. There's 7 that are struggling. But if we have less than 50% that are succeeding, then we either need to fix the program or cancel the program. And if we need another year to fix the program, I can buy another year.
If I could again weigh in on that, the first year, we had successes. We did. With the model, I asked, brought it to the board, felt like it was, or to the admin team at the time, felt like it was my duty, I guess, to talk about other options that were more, cost savings. I would not at any point in time say that this year was a win, but I also wouldn't cut it based on this year. And the reason why I say that is our students did not receive the support that they needed to be successful. And
not from your lack of trying.
Exactly. So I do feel like it needs to at least have one more year, and have some smart heads around the table that can put your heads together and talk about what that could look like. I think just basing it on this year and getting rid of it, it would be hard for our families that are part of it.
So Mac, are you saying that the support that they weren't getting was there wasn't enough staff because we weren't paying overload?
100%.
Okay, I can accept that as a constructive reason why they're not getting the feedback. They're not getting the help.
It's very difficult for me as a biology background to give the appropriate feedback for a pre-calc class.
Right.
That was the measures that we took to save some money. At the time.
Yeah, I guess I'm inclined to support it one more year, but we're going to have to really look at if we either don't have a high success rate, or we go another year where we don't properly support it as a staff in a district, then maybe we need to look at canceling. But I could support another year, but not more than another year without much improvement.
Well, the other factor, you brought up pre-calculus. There's nothing to say that we can't limit the course offering in this program.
Absolutely.
And that might be one of the things that's hampered us in the past, is we try to offer too much.
Absolutely. And we've had that conversation.
We need to pair that offering down so that we can meet that need and they can be successful.
And right now, we're offering a lot of à la carte classes that aren't required.
Yeah.
That we could have a little bit of savings there. That would be fair. They're classes that we don't offer to our students in our ICHS. So,
Right.
like forensics, things of that nature, so it'd probably be okay to say, sorry, we can't offer that there, we don't offer it here.
Sure. I would make a motion that we continue for one more year with revisions.
What revisions though? Are we looking, I guess, at what we have in front of us? Or how, I mean,
What, yeah, that's a good question.
you know, so,
Let me rescind that.
Okay.
And clarify that.
okay.
The revision of the current model.
So which model would you like, Rebecca?
If I had an option, and suggestions at this time, you know, I think that we could go forward with a core diploma, as you're suggesting, you know, the core classes that would be offered. Potentially, you know, a stipend or putting someone, you know, in a position, as I have done, that, you know, you've been able to be the teacher of record, you know, so you're having some savings. You know, when we look at the curriculum itself, it's very inexpensive. As a junior in high school, I could take all of my courses for $125.
A semester.
A semester.
Yeah.
You know, that's pretty inexpensive, when last year we were spending $3,250 per student.
So what Mecca is saying is the one that's listed as revision of current model. And I would ask maybe for some flexibility in, could I post it certified and non-certified, and find the best person to have the brain to do the organizing, to work under the administrator. Because if I found a great certified person that could do a few of these stipend areas, there could still be some savings in there too. But just finding that right brain and passion to do it, I mean, I probably won't find another Mecca, but, you know, somebody who at least would want to do well and try to make it good for the kids.
So how do we put that in?
We could just say that you'd like to continue with the virtual program at that point, because really it's the same idea. It's just I would bring some recommendations for hire your way for some extended contracts for people and some and a contract for whatever we would call that position, virtual school manager or virtual school lead teacher or something to that effect. Lead teacher is language we already use for TLC, so I don't know that I want to use that. But we just put a title on that, and I'd bring a recommendation for hire, hopefully knock on wood at the June 12th meeting, because we'll be posting it tomorrow morning and see what we can find.
We have learned a lot from this year. I mean, we really, really have. We've learned what works and what doesn't work. And I would also say, you know, when I talk about that support, that's big, you know, and we have students that could definitely benefit from being connected to the building and getting the same sort of support from a nurse or social worker or whatever. So, you know, I have lots of ideas, because this was definitely a learning year.
So put it this way. I make the motion that we continue virtual academy or virtual school for one more year, with Mark doing the rowing on attendance and work status and staffing.
That's well worded.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Well, who?
Oh, Mike Thomas was the second.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Have a motion and a second to continue virtual school for one more year with revisions to the current model. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
But I think in the next year, maybe we need to have a monthly update. No, how much time did we spend this year on the virtual school? We ignored it. And some of those problems, we could have maybe found a way to.
Well, and I think you're on the right track too, because I think we've had that discussion with the alternative students as well.
Right, exactly.
I think that needs to be a real big focus of whoever's in these seats come next school year.
But by June, could we get an update of, you're saying there are probably gonna be much more successful things. When you're dealing with emotional and mental health issues of people, they're gonna have good days and bad days, or good months and bad months. And you've gotta recognize that they're not gonna go on an even level like the picture in your head. It's just not realistic.
But why can the kids do it all within a week at the end of the year and they can't go all year long? That doesn't jive with me.
That happens face to face as well.
I just don't get it.
I put things off to the last minute myself, so
I was that student.
I was gonna say,
Okay, we'll continue here real quick. Okay, so item G, approve second reading of board policy 700 series.
I move we approve those.
Second. With revisions that were noted from reading one.
All right, so we have a
I did
motion,
put the 3 in there, by the way. We got that one.
we have a motion and a second to approve the second reading of the 700 series with corrections from the first reading. Is that correct?
correct.
Okay. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Next up, H, approve superintendent contract renewal.
I'm sorry for all the jokes over there.
Good.
Motion approved, superintendent's contract.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve superintendent contract renewal. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, next, approval of Matt Carver training invoice.
I'm super excited about this, and I should say, it didn't get the best of press on our Facebook. There was some concern about canceling days at the end. Just in case you get questions about that, we officially have 10.5 hours over the minimum. Unfortunately, because in one building, we have an incentive day where if you've met your ISASP goal, you didn't have to attend that day. If we canceled an additional day, I'm getting conflicting reports when I make calls up to the powers that be with the DE about whether or not I can count that day. So we, as far as I know, only factually have 4.5 hours that we could mess with still. So I don't want to take the chance of filling out spring beds and them saying, hey, you didn't have enough hours, you canceled too many days, and now your seniors need to come back for a semester. Kind of thought that would not go well. So if you get questions about that, we're just trying to make sure that there's enough hours to make sure that everybody can count this semester. It's a long end to the year. This will make it one day less long though, which we were able to do, and we were confident that we had the hours for that. Matt Carver is the attorney for School Administrators of Iowa. He presents at the end of the SAA conference every August. They actually put him at the very end of the conference because his presentation is always the most well-attended thing at the conference. Everybody's always interested to hear what Matt has to say. He presents in a he's sarcastic and funny kind of way. He'll share like, here's something some bonehead did somewhere this year, and he'll give them funny titles and everything in a way that makes it where people are interested in watching a legal presentation in the middle of August. And Matt and I have kind of worked over just, training on what to look for, see something, say something kind of things, protecting our students, how to communicate in this digital world to protect yourself too. Unfortunately, a lot of the work that the Iowa Board of Educational Examiners is doing right now is based around people who communicated using text or some direct message with students, and that gets taken in weird contexts and puts people in bad spots with their license. So just trying to give pointers on what's going on out there to help protect our staff and let them know what's new in that world. It's a very really cheap training, and I didn't understand quite why it was that cheap, but apparently there's certain paperwork that you don't have to do if you're at underneath $600. So imagine that the lawyer knew exactly what he had to do to not have to do extra paperwork. It's pretty amazing. That's pretty smart, but I really think our staff is going to enjoy him. But I could see this being something where we get requests to bring him back in the future, because he's just that good. And it is nice to get that update every now and then of here's some new ethical considerations to take into play. Here's some things that have happened in the past year in the state that might be something for you to keep an eye out for. And if the staff really enjoys them, I could see recommending that we do bring them back other years, just an update on the end of the year.
You know, as a board, I think I could benefit from that.
Yeah, feel free to come. Actually, I think you'd really like him. And I know I've got a few superintendent friends who asked if they could come sit in the auditorium and watch it. And I said, yeah, absolutely. Come watch Matt Carver and enjoy that. And maybe we take them out to lunch afterwards. And so hopefully we'll have some guests come and watch too. I think it'll be a really cool thing to bring to our area.
Is this for all staff, not just
So
certified?
it's for teachers and associates.
Okay.
Because those are the folks that we can have around for PD day there.
Okay.
Yeah, and anybody else would be welcome to come, but it's required for teachers and associates.
Is it appropriate for janitors and bus drivers?
You know, you'd be surprised how often communication becomes an issue in those settings, and just perspective of how when I'm doing this for the student, maybe I bought a gift for this kid or something, people might take it the wrong way. So it definitely could have some use for them, and I think they would really enjoy the way that he presents.
So are they invited?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I think anybody and anybody who would like to watch it, I think it'd be great to have people there. It's a big auditorium, so we've got all the space to bring somebody just great like that down.
Two comments on it. One, tell your superintendent buddies they're welcome to come. It's $186 a head. Second, motion to approve.
Nicely second.
Motion and a second.
I'll try that.
Motion and a second to approve the Matt Carver training invoice. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay.
I'm an aye yes to approve.
Moving on to personnel business procedures. There was another one on the desk when he came in today.
Motion to approve all the personnel procedures.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, with that, I like this when I'm, having to fill in here. Yeah, yeah. But, there is no board takeaways.
Oh,
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Motion disapproved.
With that coup that we had, we're not doing these board takeaways, I tell you.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.